Hi, this is Glenn from D12 Dev, and I'm here to demonstrate to you one of the new features to Chartopia that was just added recently called input variables. So before Chartopia supported your traditional random tables, but now with the advent of input variables, we now get more generator-like features. So for example, here is hidden options for your input variables. And at its most basic, we could create, say, a boss variable. Maybe it's a red dragon. And we can call upon this red dragon. Let's just make this more generator-like. And call upon it using the boss variable. So if we test roll that, we should get a red dragon. But let's say you want a different type of boss. We can now go wizard, and we get a wizard. Expanding on that somewhat, we can add a drop down, for example. We can give our boss some minions, and we could do something like a kobold, a cultist, and that, and we can now expand on this. We can even incorporate that with some equations. Call upon the minion variable. And now, test rolling should give us a little bit more creative results. So if the user wants to, they can refine their creation a bit while they're rolling. So now we've got a red dragon, it's forwarding for more minions. Let's say we're back to the wizard again. And there we have it. That is input variables at its most basic. Here's another example of utilizing co-blocks to set variables, but then adapting those co-blocks in the variable setting to be done via input variables so that the user has a little bit more control over the values that are being set. So I've prepared a little subtable here. It has some monsters from the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, and apologies to them, I've just taken a little bit of information about each for the purpose of this demonstration. So first of all, just switch it over to random table mode. It's just a little bit easier to work with. So for example, if I were to declare a monster using a co-block, I could do something like this. Call on the chart table from the monsters, and instead of getting the entire row's result, I am just going to get the first column. So this will give us only the name of the monster rather than the entire row's worth of data. Just to show that's working, we just print out the monster variable, and test roll will show that we get a random monster. So expanding on this, we can then, instead of printing out the variable, we can print out just the information about that monster. So if I call up on the same chart, that subtable, instead of getting the entire data, we can say I only want to search upon the first column, but I'm going to do it on the first one, and the data I'm going to filter against is the variable. So be careful to use quotes when you do this. But there is your monster. So I'm basically searching this subtable on the first column for the variable, so it's a basic string search, which variable which is the monster, but I want to return the second column. So just to show this working, we now have just the information being returned about a particular monster. Now this is a good example of where variables can be reutilized. So for example, let's say we want to just take the original monster, we can use some of the markdown formatting to print out said monster, and you can get some nice markdown formatting like so. So we've got some information about the blue dragon, the Puritan. Now in order to make this a little bit more versatile to the users, we can, rather than setting the variable via the monster variable via a code block, which is totally random, we can let the user have a bit more control. So let's add a drop down. Let's call it monster, and then we can manually add in our monsters. So we've got an owlbear, a basilisk, and a Puritan. And now I can show off one of the other fantastic things about info variables. They support all of the Chartopia domain language features. So you can put in equations, you can put in complete linked charts, but for the purpose of this demonstration, we can just do the copper, gold, black, blue, dragon, and that will align with one of the values on the left hand side there. Obviously we now no longer need the code block, so we can remove that. And now we can test roll on it. So we got an owlbear by default, and it will print the result for an owlbear, but now the user can say select the dragon, and it's now going to randomly select between one of these dragons. And they have the black dragon and its associated information block. Now this is just scratching the surface, of course. This is a really basic example of how to use tables essentially as key value pair lookup tables. The information doesn't necessarily have to be just plain text. It could be rolling on any number of tables, doing quite complicated calculations, but this is just a simple key value text lookup. If you want more information about input variables, you can refer to the documentation on the Chartopia website, of which I'll be posting this video, link to this video, and also there's a written document just explaining some of the more minor details.